Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Broku no Hero. Today we're having a discussion on who would win in a battle between Fuegoleon and Nozel Silva. Both two captains, both royals, and both extremely powerful. Now, I want to make this video because I see a lot of people talking about it, both in a Black Clover group chat, on Twitter, and the forums, on YouTube comments, and now with Nozel showing his new and true power against Dark Elf Patri, well, it kind of brings back the debate of who was stronger, because before that, it was pretty blatantly that all the logic pointed to Fuegoleon winning that battle. So I'm going to be talking about who would win in this battle. Now, this doesn't mean necessarily who's stronger, because Fuegoleon has a weakness to Nozel. Nozel's weakness for his affinity of Mercury is fire. So while Fuegoleon could beat Nozel potentially, that doesn't mean that he's overall a more powerful mage. And also, this is not who should be the Wizard King. That'll be a separate video probably next week, and I'll do not just including Fuegoleon and Nozel, I'll probably be including Yami, potentially William, because I still see a lot of people who want William to be the Wizard King, even though I completely and utterly disagree. Anyways, guys, this will of course include manga spoilers, so if you are anime only, then either don't watch or go read the manga, read the damn manga, guys, or if you just don't care, well, then just go on and get spoiled. But yeah, there is manga spoilers, so be wary of that. If you don't want to get spoiled, do not watch the rest of this video, and just come back and watch my other videos where I say that they are for anime only, because I do those occasionally. I don't do just Black Clover videos involving the manga, I do anime only videos as well. So Fuegoleon and Nozel are both rivals, they're both royals, they're both captains, and they are both wanting to be the Wizard King. And it is a very cool dynamic here. Fuegoleon is a captain that you would want to be with. A captain who didn't really care about your status as a person, he cared about you and what you could bring to the table. And one of Fuegoleon's quotes is one of my favorite quotes in all of fiction, and that is, "There's nothing wrong with being weak, there's only something wrong with staying weak," which I think is a very important thing. And this is something you can apply to your life. If you are a weak person, whether physically or mentally or emotionally, it's not bad. Staying weak is not healthy though, and you can get help, or you can help yourself and get rid of that weakness. So I love this quote by Fuegoleon. And while Nozel started off as that douchebag of a captain, he's really progressed as a character since the beginning of Black Clover, and also has progressed in power. Because as we know, guys, Nozel was known as the jobber of the Black Clover universe. He was a captain, he was supposedly a strong captain who never really got much done until recently in the manga. So I'm going to go over and talk about who I think could win. So let's just start from the beginning of the series. We know that Fuegoleon and Nozel are rivals. They're both captains of similar age, and you could take into the lore that just because they're rivals, that means that they are equal or close in power. Although I don't 100% believe that is a great argument, because rivalries, while often do imply that the characters are close in power, isn't always the case. While Magna and Luck are rivals, if they would fight each other, Luck would definitely win. But it is a rivalry in a sense where it is a good rivalry because Magna is always behind and always trying to catch up. Luck is Magna's motivation. And also there is a rivalry of Leopold and Asta. Leopold is a strong warrior, no doubt, but I would definitely put Asta as a way more powerful mage over Leopold. Based on what we've seen, I would think that base Asta would defeat Leopold and Black Asta would utterly destroy him. I just don't see him being that great. Although I do believe that Leopold will continue to be a rival to Asta and eventually will become one of the most powerful warriors in all of Black Clover, his time just needs to come. Anyways, so that shows that how rivalries doesn't always mean that the characters are close in power. Anyways, I still think it is logical to assume that base Fuegoleon and base Nozel in the beginning of the series were probably equal to each other. We know this because we do know that Nozel constantly trained against Fuegoleon in battle, as when he's fighting Fauna, and Fauna has a salamander, Jack recommends that him and Nozel switch places to fight because Nozel is fighting his weakness. Fire is the weakness to Mercury. But Nozel is like, do you think this is going to hurt me? Who do you think I've been training against my entire life? And it shows flashbacks of him training with Fuegoleon, and that would imply they've been training together and that they've had good battles with each other and are close in power. And at that time, it doesn't show Fuegoleon wearing the magic stone, which if you don't know, the lore is that yes, you need to be an elf to use the full power of the magic stone. But if a wearer has the magic stone, they will have their mana increased. So Fuegoleon would have his mana increased while wearing this stone, which means that Fuegoleon probably, takes over in power against Nozel when he wears it and would be probably a decent bit stronger. Now, the reason why this used to be a huge disparity here, guys, is Nozel didn't have great feats, while Fuegoleon got stronger because he got the Fire Spirit Salamander. Now, let's talk about Nozel and why he was considered to be a jobber at one point, or just not really living up to expectations. One is when he fought Fauna alongside the other captains with the third eye. Now, this is because Fauna was in her base form and also was suppressing herself, yet Nozel could not defeat her. Now yes, this was his weakness, but Nozel should have been bloodlusted, or at least extremely motivated, to defeat her to get to Licht, or Patry, because at the time he thought that was Licht, the one who nearly killed his cousin and his rival, and he was extremely determined to stop him. So I bring this up because a lot of people say, well, Nozel was just holding back, he was suppressing himself. And while that could be possible, and it would make some sort of sense, well, it doesn't really hold up in the state of the lore. Why would he hold back in a situation, especially when not only could he get himself killed, get his comrades killed, but also would not be able to avenge Fuegoleon? Now, next in the major battles we see him in, it's against the elf compass mage Kaveen. And while people use this to show that Nozel is a jobber, it is important to note the context of what happened. First off, this was a weakness for Nozel. It was a bad matchup. Because of how her magic worked, it made it so he couldn't use his full potential. So Nozel losing to the Compass Mage and Noel defeating the Compass Mage was a matter of matchup. Also, who knows, if Nozel didn't have to protect Nebra, Solid, and Noel, he might have been able to still defeat her. And when he was actually impaled by her compass blades, he was caught off guard because they thought that she was already defeated. So yes, Nozel was technically defeated here, but we need to look at the context. And now, before I get into the main feat of Nozel versus Patry to show that Nozel is way stronger than he was against Fauna, it's important to note that, captains have gotten stronger. I'm going to make an entire video on this probably next week of why captains have definitely gotten stronger over the course of the series, but I'll just give one example of evidence here. Actually, I'll give two, is that every other mage has been getting stronger over the course of the series. This is explained by many different times, especially if you just go read the Royal Knights selection tournament. There's plenty of cases showing that Magic Knights are getting stronger. And also, if you look at the context of the author's statement regarding physical strength and compare that to the physical strength rankings in the guides, and Magna were the 10th and 11th strongest physical mages in Black Clover. Nozel wasn't ranked. But in the actual guidebook, which takes place at a later date in the series than that author statement, and Magna have 3 out of 5s, while Nozel has a 4 out of 5, which shows that Nozel is now stronger physically than both Magna and which implies physical strength training, which would also mean, if you're going to say Nozel is not training, that just doesn't make sense. He's training, and also, if he knows that Fuegoleon is his rival, and is at least as strong, if not stronger than him, and also, he knows that Fuegoleon probably had the magic stone and still got defeated, well, if Fuegoleon got nearly killed, Nozel is going to want to be training just in case for that moment. Now, it does imply some headcanon here, because we don't have explicit statements or actual scans of him training, but bringing all the context, the author statement, the guidebook, you can show that Nozel is stronger now. And that is backed up by his feat against Dark Elf Patry. Now, you have Patry, then you have a hypothetical third eye Patry. We never see a third eye Patry. Then we have a self-sacrifice Patry. Self-sacrifice is roughly equivalent to an unsealed magic. Then you have Elf. When Riot was using a self-sacrifice in his third form, that was strong. But when he was in his elven form, his mana was even higher. So elven form of mana is higher mana than when you're in your third eye state and your self-sacrifice. Patry also then turned into a dark elf, which was even stronger and faster, and then his mana continued to increase while he was a dark elf. So Dark Elf Patry that fought Nozel is stronger than the Dark Elf Patry that fought Asta and Yuno. And yes, Nozel defeated Dark Elf Patry, in fact, quite easily. And while people do try and downplay this feat, they say that, well, Nozel had a weakness to Dark Elf Patry. The light was reflected by the Mercury, and that is true, but we do need to remember that elemental weaknesses are not everything. They are just a part of the matchup and a part of the battle. As we do know, Mereoleona has fire, so she has a weakness to water. But that water magic must be strong enough, or it must be able to counter fire, because Mereoleona is so strong and has worked her fire so hard that not even Raya's water magic could counter it. And also, Mereoleona as a 17-year-old, who would be extremely powerful. She fought Ausier Silva, who was probably regarded as one of the most powerful captains ever based on the lore we have so far. And even though fire was a weakness to steel, she never won in battle against Ausier. So, elemental weaknesses are not everything. If this shows that at least Nozel is relative in power to Dark Elf Patry, and there is feats showing that Nozel is just as fast, if not a little bit slower, or at least his attacks. Nozel's attacks blitz towards Dark Elf Patry, and Dark Elf Patry dodges them, is running away from them, but the blades are keeping up with them, which is showing that these are moving at FTL to FTL plus ranges of speed. And also, he surrounds Dark Elf Patry in this cocoon of Mercury before Patry can dodge that. So, Nozel has the speed to keep up with Patry, and he has a high amount of mana. So, Nozel is very powerful. So, like I said before, Nozel basically had no say in this fight before this feat, but now he really does. Now, I'll talk a bit about Fuegoleon. I'll talk about him a little bit, but we don't know how he lost against Patry/William. It seems that William first showed his face against Fuegoleon and probably did the same spiel that he gave to Julius, where he's like, you know, we're captains together. I have somebody inside of me. If you defeat them, then we're good. If not, then sorry, but it's just how it is. And what's weird here is that Yami knew how strong Fuegoleon was, knew how strong Patry was, but thought that Fuegoleon, that there was no way he would lose to Patry. He states this explicitly in his battle with him, which, if you take into the context of the scans of what Fuegoleon went through, there was 3 circles of forbidden magic shown here. Now, what does this mean? In my opinion, it is probably what happened is Patry knew he couldn't defeat Fuegoleon, or knew it might be trouble, especially with his magic stone, so he got the third eye involved. If Fuegoleon just lost to Patry, that wouldn't make sense. But if Fuegoleon lost to Patry and the combined might of the third eye, and remember, Raya could use water magic, so that would be a big trouble here. It would be a bad matchup, and he would take on 4 powerful mages at once. So, Fuegoleon, it is not really out of sight to say that Fuegoleon might have taken on all the third eye and Patry and still survived without being killed, which is very impressive, although that is partially headcanon, it is partially backed up by foreshadowing. Now, Fuegoleon got the Fire Spirit, and the Fire Spirit is the strongest spirit of all, has basically the power of an entire nation, and Fuegoleon has that at his whim. Now, he hasn't done much feats with it. He defeated the vice captain of the Crimson Lion Kings, Randall, who got turned into an elf, which, yeah, that's kind of impressive. He fought a vice captain who was turned into an elf, and he easily defeated him. And then, Fuegoleon fought Elf Kaiser. And this was a thing of matchup. Kaiser has his vortex magic. That is not a great matchup for Fuegoleon, and he was in his elven form, but Fuegoleon still found a way to defeat him. So, honestly, even though Nozel defeated Dark Elf Patry, and that's a more powerful fighter than Kaiser, we have to remember that Nozel had the weakness, and Fuegoleon was the weakness against Kaiser's vortex magic. So, now this brings into more context of the lore. We know that pretty much by far, before Fuegoleon got the Fire Spirit, that Mereoleona was the most powerful character, or most powerful captain in the Clover Kingdom. She has a physical strength rating of 5 out of 5, and has mana that is off the chart. So basically she went and fought and lived in strong magic regions, and that made her stronger. So it is probably logical to say that she might have more mana than Fuegoleon, unless if Fuegoleon just got the genetic lottery and was born with more mana and born with the potential to gain more mana. Now, Mereoleona has some of the greatest feats in Black Clover. This includes fodderizing Third Eye Patry and then holding her own against 5 elves at once, and then she fought and likely defeated Elven Veto, which Veto, getting that elven level of mana, that is impressive. So, the context of the lore kind of shows that Fuegoleon, without the spirit, should be close to the power of Mereoleona, based on when they fought as a kid, and based on what is shown here now. This is Fuegoleon punching Kaiser, and Mereoleona punching Veto. Now, they are both saying that Fuegoleon is saying that Mereoleona is the strongest, and Mereoleona is saying that Fuegoleon is the strongest. So, we need to remember, Fuegoleon at this point doesn't have his spirit with him because he let the spirit stay back and distract against Kaiser. So while this could be saying that Fuegoleon is equal to Mereoleona without the fire spirit, I don't think so. I still think that Mereoleona is saying that Fuegoleon is equal to her now, or stronger than her, because he now has the fire spirit. And so if Fuegoleon with the spirit is equal to Mereoleona, I would have to give the edge, probably slightly, to Fuegoleon over Nozel. And that means that while Fuegoleon would probably defeat Nozel in a close battle, that probably means Nozel is overall the more powerful captain, because Fuegoleon would be exploiting a weakness. But if Fuegoleon has Mana Zone, which he likely should, then he would also logically have Spirit Dive. And with the Salamander Spirit being the most powerful spirit, Fuegoleon and Spirit Dive, I believe, would absolutely destroy Nozel. So that is pretty much my thoughts. I would say that Fuegoleon with the Fire Spirit, just the Fire Spirit, is probably close to in power than Nozel, but would probably beat him in a battle, just because of the elemental weakness. But Fuegoleon with the power of Spirit Dive would be overall a more powerful captain, but also would probably absolutely fodderize Nozel Silva. But guys, I think this is really cool what they've done with Nozel. Nozel is now a bona fide top tier captain alongside the likes of Mereoleona, Fuegoleon, and Yami. In my previous ranking, I put Jack the Ripper above Nozel, but I might change that now. I might put Nozel above Jack the Ripper. Even though Jack the Ripper does have his slashing magic, it does take time to adjust, so it just depends on how fast Nozel would want to win that fight. Anyways, guys, I would pick Fuegoleon over Nozel, and that's kind of it. Let's say if Fuegoleon had Mercury magic just like Nozel, and he had like a Mercury spirit. Who would win? I think it would be Nozel, actually. Well, if we equalize magic affinity, I think Nozel would win, if Fuegoleon could not use Spirit Dive. Anyways, guys, that is my thoughts on this video. Next week, I will be doing, hopefully, who should be the Wizard King, Fuegoleon or Nozel. Those are the top 2 candidates for sure, and the other candidates would be people like Yami, and maybe, probably not though, William. Anyways, guys, hope you guys all have an amazing day. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out. Plus...